Hello guys, today I want to show a really based guide on Meepo. Over the past year, the hero has changed a lot. His gameplay has become much more interesting than before. New interesting mechanics have appeared, such as MegaMeepo or Digging. Therefore, today I want to talk about how to effectively play Meepo after all changes. I will try to make this video as useful as possible for both beginners and for based guys who already know how to play Meepo, but do not fully understand how to properly use the new Meepo mechanics. For beginners, Meepo seems to be a very hard hero, but now we will start to see into it out, and you will see that everything is much easier than you think. Firstly, I'll tell you about the main basic things, such as settings, how to use poofs, control groups, and then we'll talk about more in-depth things like game strategy, builds, and recommendations for the game, so enjoy watching, my friends. So first, let's talk about the settings. Firstly, to make playing the Meepo easier, we need such a thing as quickcasts. Quickcasts is a setting that allows you to use a spell in one click instead of 2 clicks. For example, with quickcast enabled, to use poof, we only need to press W once. But without quickcast, we would have to press it 2 times. The same goes for the net. It's quite simple. Just hover your mouse over the area where you want to use the net and press Q once, instead of aiming and pressing Q twice. So, to enable it, go to the settings, then navigate to Advanced Hotkeys and click on the Enable Advanced Quickcast button. Next, return to the regular settings. Press the Unit-Specific Hotkeys button, choose Meepo, go to the Quickcast tab, and bind the net to the Q key and poof to on button W. Now, with Quickcast, you only need to press W once for the poof instead of twice. To use net, simply hover your mouse over the area where you want to put it and press Q. These settings greatly simplify the gameplay on Meepo, and in my opinion, it's really impossible to play this hero without them. Next, let's talk about unit control. Go to the settings, bind Select All Controlled Units to button 1, the main hero to the button F1, and all other units except the main Meepo on button 2. Also, make sure you binded button for switching between unit setup. By default, it's on tab. Well, now to select all Meepo units, press 1. To select all clones except the main Meepo, press 2. To select only the main hero, press F1. You might be surprised, but these settings should cover you in about 90% of cases in game. I also recommend setting up control groups for subordinated units. Go to the settings and bind control groups to buttons 3, 4, 5, and 6. Actually, binding each Meepo clone separately is mainly for more advanced control. In my opinion, it's not really important for beginners. From my experience, I started playing Meepo in 2018, and by 2020, I reached 6,500 MMR without ever binding each clone separately. It's mainly for more comfortable farming and control during team fights, but when you're just starting out, you don't need to worry about it. So, what's the essence of binding each Meepo clone separately? Firstly, it allows you to send each clone to different camps. For example, if you're level 11 and have 3 clones which can quickly farm the entire forest. To maximize your farming efficiency, it's best to send each Meepo clone to attack separate camps using the Shift key. Don't worry, I'll show you in detail how to do that shortly. Besides farming, unit binding can also help us quickly select the Meepo that's being focused in a fight and move it away, or use the spell that digs Meepo into the ground for 3 seconds and saving him. This spell is available with the shard. So, to bind each clone separately, here's how you do it. Select the second clone and press Ctrl plus 3. Choose the third clone, press Ctrl plus 4. Select the fourth clone, press Ctrl plus 5. Finally, select the fifth clone and bind it to Ctrl plus 6. And if you want to select the main hero as we bound earlier, use the F1 key. Now that we've covered the settings, let's talk about Microcontrol, specifically poofs and grids. For beginners, it may seem unclear how to quickly cast poofs. They might think it's hard, but there's no magic to it. To use our combo, we first select all the other units with button 2. Then we need to quickly press W plus tab 3 times. Initially, it may be challenging, but believe me, after just 10 games, you will execute poofs perfectly, and your hands will remember this combination with a little practice. To learn how to nets, try to place them ahead of your target. Mentally envision where the enemy will be in 1 second and place the net in that area. With time, your eyes will naturally see where to drop the net. To keep the enemy in the net constantly, monitor when the disable from the net is about to expire, then press tab and use the net again with button Q. Additionally, Valve recently added an auto poof feature for Meepo. What it does is, if you press Ctrl plus W instead of regular poofs, it will trigger an auto poof. This means that when you press W, all your clones except the main one will poof to the main Meepo. You can also permanently toggle auto poofs by right-clicking on the poof button. On the one hand, it's very convenient, but I still recommend learning to press poofs by hand, because you often need to press it on individual clones, for example when you're TPing to heal one clone. As for my experience using this button, I only use it when I already have 4 clones, because it really makes pressing poofs easier. But when I only have 3 clones, it's much easier for me to press poofs by hand, because there are times when you need to use a poofs only on one clone. I also want to talk about the new Meepo abilities. The first one is the MegaMeepo, which we get when we buy the Aghanim. The essence of this ability is that when it is used, all our clones gather into one big unit called MegaMeepo for 25 seconds. This unit receives half of the attributes from each clone. As a result, our clone becomes practically invincible. At the 20-minute mark, the MegaMeepo has about 4,000 health points and deals 200 damage per hit. Additionally, when using the grid, Meepo throws a bunch of grids in different directions, and when using the area poofs, damage is dealt from all the poofs. In other words, if you have 4 clones, enemies will receive the same damage as if 4 clones at once pressed poofs and deal 1,040 pure damage in an area. Honestly, this is a huge amount of damage because it's also pure, meaning magical resistances do not reduce it. I'll delve into how to effectively use MegaMeepo ability in more detail later when discussing gameplay. Our second new ability is called Dig, obtained upon purchasing a shard. Each Meepo receives this ability through the shard, allowing the chosen Meepo to burrow into the ground for 3 seconds, removing negative effects and healing for 35% of their health. It's a potent spell that helps evade focused attacks on a particular clone. If an enemy starts focusing on a clone, we can use this spell to easily save it. However, this spell doesn't work when we're affected by certain crowd control effects, such as being rooted, for example, under the Rod of Ateo's debuff. Next, let's talk about lane selection. Meepo performs exceptionally well in the mid lane. There, it quickly gets a second clone and begins farming the jungle, gaining the necessary levels. Personally, I play Meepo through the mid lane in 90% of cases. However, Meepo can also thrive in the safe lane if we have a good support with crowd control abilities with whom we can secure kills, such as Ogre Mage or Dazzle. With 2 clones, Meepo has 2 grids, translating to a 4-second disable, which is quite substantial in a 2v2 lane, especially with a strong support. Additionally, Meepo deals significant pure damage to enemies with its passive ability, making it a formidable force that annihilates enemies without much chance. However, my guide will be focused on mid-lane Meepo. If you're interested, I can create a separate guide for Meepo in the safe lane, as it can also be quite engaging. Now let's talk about the skill build. At level 1, we prioritize the passive ability. It provides us with pure damage, making it easier to last-hit creeps, sustain through healing, and harass melee opponents. The passive ability deals more damage to enemies. Currently at level 1, it deals 9 pure damage and provides 9 healing to each Meepo. This is particularly potent during the laning phase. Next, we invest 2 points in poof. There are situations where you might have the opportunity to kill the enemy mid-laner, at level 4 for instance, when facing a weak hero like Exort Invoker or Ember Spirit. In such cases, we can allocate 1 skill point to the grid by level 4. At level 4, we take our ultimate, and from there, we prioritize maxing out poof. The strategy revolves around quickly clearing lane creeps with poofs and then farming the nearest jungle camp. After a stacked poof, you should have at least 1 point in the grid, typically taken at level 8, unless there's a chance to kill the enemy mid laner in the early levels. At level 10, I choose the talent that increases the damage from poofs. This talent is exceptionally potent because the damage from poof is currently pure, and thanks to this talent, our poof damage will increase by 30%, which is a substantial boost. Following that, I prioritize maxing out the grid because with an upgraded grid, we can eliminate enemies even without a blink dagger. At level 15, both talents are viable, but personally, I prefer the cooldown reduction on the grids. Lower cooldowns allow us to have more disables in teamfights, and we can use the grid more frequently for MegaMeepo. At level 20, if you're up against heroes with evasion, such as Phantom Assassin, Windrunner, or heroes who build Radiance like Alchemist, I recommend taking the right talent, which grants true strike against enemies caught in the grid. As for level 25, I always choose the talent for an additional clone, because having an extra clone allows us to make a more significant impact in team fights and greatly enhances our MegaMeepo. Let's now discuss the item build. In the beginning, I start with a quilling blade, 3 tangos, slippers of agility, a circlet, and a fairy fire. This setup provides solid early game stats. The first item I purchase is power treads, the best boots for Meepo, providing stats and attack speed to each clone. Moreover, if we switch them to intelligence before using abilities, we can save a significant amount of mana. After getting power treads, I go for 2 wraith bands. They offer great stats for their cost along with attack speed and armor, which synergize well with MegaMeepo. Additionally, after 25 minutes, the stats from wraith bands double, making them even more valuable. Therefore, I consider getting 2 wraith bands a solid choice. As a significant item, I go for Diffusal Blade. It's currently cost-effective, provides a lot of agility, and adds an extra disable. With Diffusal Blade, we can early gank and secure kills even with just 2 clones at lower levels. In previous patches, I used to build Dragonlance, but now I prefer a quick Aghanim's Scepter. Purchasing an Ogre Club and a Blade of Alacrity gives us nearly the same stats as Dragonlance, but with half of Aghanim's Scepter already in our backpack. Aghanim's Scepter provides excellent stats, and most importantly, it grants us a new ability, MegaMeepo. Additionally, don't forget to pick up the Aghanim's Shard after 15 minutes. It provides a very powerful ability that helps us survive in team fights. Personally, I make sure to include it in every game. After Aghanim's Scepter, I go for Blink Dagger. It allows us to initiate fights and quickly eliminate enemy supports. I used to be cautious about Blink Dagger because it was a risky item for Meepo. Entering a fight on Meepo often meant you might not come out of it alive. Now, however, you can activate MegaMeepo and easily survive if one of your clones is being focused. After Blink Dagger, if there are troublesome heroes on the enemy team that need to be focused quickly, such as Earthshaker or Winter Wyvern, or heroes with escapes like Storm Spirit, Queen of Pain, or Ember Spirit, I opt for Hex. Combined with Blink, this gives us an almost guaranteed kill on any target. In reality, this item is a must-have because there will always be a hero in the late game that needs to be quickly focused, and relying on the grids might not be effective due to enemies having Black King Bar or other save items. Continuing with the item build, I then pick up Satanic, which is one of the best items for Meepo. It provides a heap of stats to each clone and slows down the enemy. Agility and strength are crucial on Meepo as they significantly buff MegaMeepo. After that, I grab Swift Blink. This item grants 25 agility and, upon activation, gives each Meepo 35 agility, significantly boosting our right-click damage. Moreover, when used on MegaMeepo, it provides additional movement speed, attack speed, and damage for 6 seconds. If you're playing in the late game, I recommend picking up Butterfly. It gives a lot of agility and makes MegaMeepo almost impervious to physical damage. Additionally, as an experimental item, I sometimes try an early Silver Edge. It allows us to gank the map early and also provides critical strikes, significantly buffing MegaMeepo's damage. Moving on to neutral items. From the first tier, I prefer items that provide stats, such as Occult Bracelet and Pigpole. Stats are crucial for Meepo. If these items don't drop, go for something that boosts right-click damage, like Spark of Courage or Broom Handle. At least it will accelerate the farm of the main Meepo. From the second tier, I take Pupil's Gift, Specialist's Array, Vambrace, or Ring of Aquila. These items offer good stats, help our clones survive in fights, and provide solid damage. From tier 3, I go for Elven Tunic or Titan Sliver. These items are very strong when we use MegaMeepo, which gains useful bonuses such as stat resist or evasion, making it nearly invulnerable. From tier 4, my favorite items are Mindbreaker and Ninja Gear. Mindbreaker acts as a free orchid, which combined with Blink, allows us to quickly kill enemies. On the other hand, Ninja Gear provides a lot of agility and the smoke effect, which is highly useful in the late game, enabling us to pick off enemies as they won't see us on wards. Now let's discuss gameplay. In the mid lane, our initial goal is to reach level 4 as quickly as possible. Try to last hit all the creeps and deny them. To prevent the enemy from denying creeps, I recommend harassing several creeps down to half health and then using poof. This way, you'll guarantee the last hits. If you're up against a strong hero like Shadow Fiend or Viper, I suggest making the lane not static but pushing. To achieve this, constantly draw aggro from the creeps onto yourself. This way, the enemy creeps will go under your tower, and the lane won't stay static. After reaching level 4, our tactic is to quickly kill lane creeps with 2 poofs and then go to the nearest jungle camp. For more efficient farming, I recommend sending your clones to different camps after 40 seconds and stack them. Meepo can rapidly farm stacks with a few poofs, as they now deal pure AoE damage. At this stage of the game, it's crucial to farm both jungle camps and lane creeps. Many inexperienced Meepo players go into the jungle and leave the lane, but this is not ideal. So continuing with the topic of farming, obtaining gold and experience from lane creeps is essential. Without them, we won't be able to outpace enemies in levels and items. Now let me explain how to automate farming on Meepo using the shift key. To ensure that our clones automatically farm jungle camps without us having to constantly control them, we select our clones, press the attack key, usually default to A, then hold down the Shi. After reaching level 4, our tactic is to quickly kill lane creeps with 2 poofs and then go to the nearest jungle camp. For more efficient farming, I recommend sending your clones to different camps after 40 seconds and stack them. Meepo can rapidly farm stacks with a few poofs, as they now deal pure AoE damage. At this stage of the game, it's crucial to farm both jungle camps and lane creeps. Many inexperienced Meepo players go into the jungle and leave the lane, but this is not ideal. So continuing with the topic of farming, obtaining gold and experience from lane creeps is essential. Without them, we won't be able to outpace enemies in levels and items. Now, let me explain how to automate farming on Meepo using the shift key. To ensure that our clones automatically farm jungle camps without us having to constantly control them, we select our clones, press the attack key, usually default to A, then hold down the shift key and press the attack key, A, sequentially on several nearby camps. The essence of this technique is that with the shift key held down, we give our clones consecutive commands. After they finish one jungle camp, they will automatically move on to the next, and so on. This trick allows us to automate farming and save time by eliminating unnecessary microcontrol of units. Yes, it's that simple magic outside of Hogwarts. Our current goal is to reach level 11, at which point we can upgrade our third clone. However, if you purchase Diffusal Blade, you can send one clone to the side lane where your team is struggling and easily gank enemies. With Diffusal Blade and 2 grids, we have about 8 seconds of disable. After reaching level 11, the strategy is as follows. 2 clones farm the jungle, while the main Meepo roams the lanes, attempting to find kills. Try to take the enemy tower after each kill to solidify map control. Meepo is a hero that needs to constantly dominate. You can't endlessly farm because in the late game, Meepo is not as powerful as other carries. How to behave in a fight. Try to focus on supports or troublesome heroes with mass stuns first. Press your poofs, activate blink, and eliminate that hero with the nets. Currently, Meepo has 2 saving abilities, MegaMeepo and Dig. Therefore, we can confidently engage in the fight first. As soon as one of our Meepos becomes the target, use the MegaMeepo ability. All our Meepos will merge into one thick unit that is practically impossible to quickly kill, especially with over 6,000 GP even at the 20-minute mark. Primarily, the MegaMeepo ability is used as a save spell. Next, if the ability expires and one of your Meepos has low HP, press Dig, which makes you invulnerable for 3 seconds, removes negative effects, and heals 35% HP. Currently, Meepo is a hero with immense damage and numerous saving opportunities, so don't hesitate to initiate first and absorb enemy spells. Also, when under the effect of MegaMeepo, don't forget to use poofs. They will deal much more damage than your regular attacks. Just imagine, using poof with 4 clones will deal 1040 pure damage in the area. That's incredibly high, so always use poofs when near enemies. After a fight, try to take down Roshan. Meepo can easily do this due to the high damage output from regular attacks and poofs. Try to consistently use poofs on Roshan. As I mentioned, they deal tremendous pure damage. After Roshan, proceed to break the enemy's T3 towers. Avoid dragging the game into the late stage because Meepo is a hero that weakens in the late game. Actually, I would like to create a detailed guide on farming with Meepo. It's an extremely interesting topic. Unfortunately, it won't fit into this video, so I'm considering making a separate video with an in-depth guide on how to farm most effectively, control units, stack, and so on. If you're interested, please let me know in the comments. Next, let's talk about counters. Meepo is countered by Wyvern, who can use her ultimate on us, causing Meepo to kill himself, and also by Earthshaker with numerous stuns and Echo Slam, which can explode us. Against these heroes, I advise keeping the main Meepo away from the others. When your clones start getting focused, transform into MegaMeepo to save all of them. Against these heroes, I also recommend getting Blink and Hex and focusing them first in fights. Another challenging hero for us is Tinker. This hero uses laser on all clones, blinding them, and is challenging to catch. Against Tinker, I advise taking the level 20 talent that gives True Strike to attack enemies under the effect of the net. Also, play aggressively against Tinker. Try to focus him first and don't let him farm. That's basically all I wanted to say about Meepo. Thanks to everyone for watching. If you found the video helpful, you can subscribe to the channel and give it a like. I would greatly appreciate it. Thanks for watching, good luck.